Hello everybody. All right, so I'm going to show you a few things that I went over in class in Finale, just as a review. So here we go. I'll show first Speedy Entry. So here's our main tool palette up here. We're going to click on Speedy, which is this running note looking icon. And remember in class I showed if you have a keyboard at home, go up to the menu, make sure Use MIDI Input is clicked on in Speedy, and then turn on the caps locks, and then you can select different rhythms. You see this tiny little number, 4, 5, 6, etc. And then once you have your rhythm set, then you can enter on the keyboard. If you don't have a keyboard at home, you're going to go up to Speedy in the menu, turn off Use MIDI Input for device, turn off the caps locks, and then you can use the arrow keys to go up and down in the staff, and numbers, when I push a number, that will enter. I just entered that in the wrong layer. I'm going to click delete, make sure I'm in layer 1. I'm entering the soprano part, and I'm going to go ahead and enter the notes as I go. I had questions about layers in class. You can go back to where you want to start. So you'll notice you can't actually like grab notes with the selection tool. Our most intuitive motion would be to just be able to grab notes, and it doesn't work that way in Finale. We have to use everything through this note selection process. So Speedy and going note by note with the arrow keys, so you can see I can go back to where I want to enter things. So if I want to enter this alto part back in the beginning, go back to the beginning, down here, change to layer 2. Then I can start entering layer 2. I'm going to use number 4 to enter eighth notes, and so forth. And the same process for entering layers in 1 and 2 in the tenor and bass parts. And you can change the layer here as well. You'll see I'm going to push Command equals or Command plus or Control plus on PC is the zoom feature, Control plus or Control equals, Control plus and minus. Allows you to zoom. I'm going to zoom in so you can see layer 1 is activated, layer 2 is faded. If I turn on layer 1, turn on layer 2, it's activated, and layer 1 is faded. So you can kind of see that way which layer is active. See, it's transparent when it's not. Okay, so Control minus to zoom back out. A couple of the other tools that I showed in class. So this is your whole tool palette. You can always scroll over to find what you're looking for. I showed the expression tool, which has this little entering arrow. You see as I get closer, I can enter expressions in different places. When you have a tool, you can double click in the score where you want to enter things. So I showed how to make your own marking in the beginning. If I click here, we want something that says Gelobet seist du Jesu Christ. You can duplicate a previous one. So I'm going to click duplicate and then edit. And I'm going to Gelobet seist du Jesu Christ. Click OK. And then I've created my own marking. Click Assign. The other tool I showed is the Articulation Tool. It's this tool that looks like a whole note with an accent on it. Same entry process. I click where I want articulation, and you'll be using these for the fermatas in the piece, which are at all the holds. So if I click over a note, I get this palette of articulations. You'll see the fermatas down here. Notice there's a letter attached, letter F. There is some logic here to these articulations. So letter F, F is for fermata. I can click select, or I can go in and if I hold letter F down and click, it'll also insert if I want to, fermata in, this is a much faster way if I want to enter fermatas like that. Each articulation has this little box that allows you to select it. You can do what I just did, which is draw a box around all of them, and I can click delete, get rid of them, or I can move them around in the score. You'll see they have some auto flip features. So if you want to put it underneath, that's how you can adjust within the score. So there's this little handle. All these things in Finale have these little handles that you can move things around. Even the title in the beginning has a little box as well if I click on the title. So, okay, that's the articulation tool. I showed the time signature tool, how to adjust the last measure. So I click on the 4/4, which is the time signature tool. And if you click in the staff, double click, it opens up the tool. For this, we want to set it to have only 3 beats, but we're going to click more options and use a different time signature for display. We're going to have it display 4/4. And then click OK. And that does your last measure. You might have to, do you see how there's this funky rest? You might have to go in, select, and use the arrow key to go to the end of the measure and click delete to get rid of those beats. So I'm going to click delete. You'll see I still have a beat in layer 2 that's hanging out. So I'm going to go into layer 2, use the arrow key to go to the end and delete the extra rests. It cleans it up. The page layout tool is this little icon that looks like a paper. Click on that and you'll see it sets up a bunch of these lines. Don't mess with these lines straight away because it'll mess up your score. Always work with page layout up in the menu under systems. And you can edit systems or page margins. So let's just turn on systems. This gives you a little dialog box that allows you to set the margins. So systems are actually, they're numbered in Finale. And you can set the distance here. You say what system you want to change and what you want the margin to be. And I have the directions. So just follow the assignment directions for the different system spacings and enter them here in this dialog box. Systems are different than page margins. Page margins are just like in a document, the space all the way around. I suggest in Finale, I almost always use 0.5 for all pages. Click apply. It just gives you a little more space to work with in your document. So, and I use that for full, published printed scores. I always do everything 0.5. It makes it the most roomy look. In the directions, I also talk about the staff tool, which is this treble clef on the staff. You'll see there's a little box right next to the clefs. And don't click on this. This is your bracket. It's the box right here, just to the left of each clef. And if I double click this, I can actually move the whole staff to give it a little more room. You see I have some spacing issues here in my bass clef. So I'm actually going to double click this whole staff system and just give it a little bit more room so it's not conflicting with the parts. And there we go, it looks a little better. So that's one way you can move the staff around to give yourself some more space. The playback controls are here, and it might look a little different in PC if you're working with that. In Mac, it has this kind of floating window. If you want to listen to this, you simply click play. Wait a second for it to load. All right, so that's a little bit slow. Let's see. Well, I guess I'm just going to leave that for now. You can adjust the tempo later. I'll show you how to do that. That's fine for now. So we know my sounds are working. That's the most important part of this assignment. And I want to show you a little bit about how to assign MIDI controlled sounds to these layers. And we do that up here in Window, Score Manager. And you'll see you have a device name here, and you should try to load, if you have it, Garaton. If you don't have Garaton, load Smart Music Soft Synth. For now, I'm just going to show you Garaton instruments. For Finale is basically a set of sampled instruments, and they sound very good. So it's better to use Garaton if you have it. Right now you can see I have a piano set for all my staffs. So staff 1 is my treble clef, staff 2 is my bass clef. To assign sounds to these layers, I can actually click this little arrow to the left of the staff, and it opens up the layers. Some of you may have, it might be just showing this. So these little arrows open up the sets of underneath in the staff. So you can kind of open and close with these little arrows the different layers in the staff. So to assign different sounds to the layers, so remember we entered layer 1 and layer 2 for our alto and our soprano. You can just go over here, and we're just going to assign, let's do something like a string quartet for our layers. So let's do violin 1 under sound. There's this little arrow to the right of each instrument listed. You can just click that and load a new sound. I'm going to go to single string. Let's do a violin 2 for layer 2. Then we'll go to the bass clef, which is staff 2. Layer 1, let's do viola. This is basically the tenor line. And let's do a cello for the bass line. You can see it's loading up those sounds as we go. I mentioned in the directions that you can cross-check your sounds you've loaded. You see how there's this CH in this little table here. This stands for channel. So you can go in, you can see what channel each of these instruments I've plugged into. Layer 1 is 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. You can go and check this in Audio Units Bank and Effects. Under MIDI Audio, there's a thing called Aria Player. And you can see where the sounds are all loaded. And I can activate with this little bar underneath the number. See how it highlights it? And I can check out how it's mapped onto the piano. I can also check the range of each instrument I've loaded in here. So here's the cello, for example. You can also do stuff like effects and add reverb and fancy things like that, which we can do later. So that's the Aria Player. That's kind of the controller for the sounds as they're mapped in through the Score Manager. All right, so let's click out of there and let's click play and see how the sounds are sounding. All right. Yay, sounds beautiful. And you can do whatever configuration you want on this. If you want to just do what I did and do a string quartet, that's cool. Or if you want to mess around, you could do a brass group. You could do some funky other things. So have fun with this. Just you have to assign 4 different sounds to the layers. All right, when you're ready to submit the assignment, if you're working on a Mac, you just simply export. So under File, Export Audio File. This will export a WAV file. And to make a PDF of your assignment in Mac, you click Print. And go down here to the bottom, PDF, Save as PDF. If you're working on a PC, it's a little bit more intuitive. Both of the options are under Export. You can export to PDF and to audio file. You don't have to do it through the print dialog. So, all right, have fun with this. And I look forward to seeing your assignments due next Tuesday.